Every theatre has memories of the past. Artists starting out with hopes, dreams, and ambitions. This beautiful theatre, His Majesty's in Aberdeen, has seen many stars, and one of the most outstanding was not only a great entertainer, but one of Scotland's greatest ambassadors. On this special night, we want to remember the life, the laughter, and the music of Andy Stewart.
The distant Isle of Luz. Show me all the world, there's but one place I would choose to represent the beauties of my homeland so fair, the Hogmanay Isle from the heights of Blair. Show me Ireland, below me Hogmanay. Lead me to my solitude and let me wander free to climb the rocky mountain and to search the glen below for a pint and a pint of when the day is fading and the light is wearing through, the road leads me west to the village of Value. Farewell to bonny Cartery, my wandering footsteps guide, for the fair woods of Inverhan by the riverside. Show me Ireland, below me Hogmanay. Hey, lead me to my solitude and let me wander free to climb the rocky mountain and to search the glen below for a pint and a pint of Royal.
Andy Stewart was born in Glasgow, brought up in Arbroath. His show business career began in 1950 at the Royal Scottish Academy of Drama, where at 17 he'd gone to train as an actor.
During that time, I did make ventures into the world of variety simply because they used to do a show in Glasgow, a student rag show, a student review called College Pudding. And my notion was always to be a comedy actor. I had never had aspirations to be, you know, a God for England, Harry and St. George type, Olivier, obviously. With this piece, I hadn't much chance. But I got the comedy lead in this student review show, and from this I was asked to do variety dates.
While still a student, Andy was to make his first professional appearance as an extra in the film You're Only Young Twice. See if you can spot him.
I feel like one who's come out of the long darkness into the bright sunshine of the proudest day of my life.
I started off as an impressionist. In those days, impressions were marvelous because most singers were solo singers and they had very individualistic style of voices. And I did all the standards, the Billy Daniels, the Billy Ecksteins, the Johnny Rays, Presley when he came along, and all these and the spoken impressions too. You know, I used to do my Jimmy Stewart, which everybody did, of course. Anyway.
What beckoned then was a career that eventually took him to the London Palladium and the Carnegie Hall. But while Andy was filling theatres, it was to television that he turned to further his career. The White Heather Club was to make him a national star.
Every night I used to hang my trousers up at the back of the bedroom door. I rue the day, I must have been a jay. I'll never hang them up anymore, because my wife, she used to rattle through my butches when I was fast asleep beneath the quilt. And in the morning when I woke, I was always story broke, and that's the reason I wear the kilt.
I'd had a few breaks before that, or I wouldn't have been asked to do the White Heather Club. But being asked to do the White Heather Club, and not being your traditional kind of Scottish singer with a glorious voice like Kenny McKell, I had to find material that suited me, and I started to write, along with Ian McFadden, the producer of the show. We started to write a lot of material. We wrote things like Come In, the opening song for the White Heather Club, and during this process of writing lots of songs, I was writing about 3 a week at that time, I I'd always been in love with the tune The Green Hills of Tyrol. My father was a musician, you see, and played it in his fiddle, and I remembered it from when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I'd always had an ambition to write words to this tune. And I think, you know, when your necessity is definitely the mother of invention, when you've got to do a thing, and when you've got to find 3 new songs for a television show every week, you start to, your writing starts to flow, and inspiration seems to come much more easily. And one night, the inspiration for the opening line, "There was a soldier, a Scottish soldier," came, and the rest followed.
There was a soldier, a Scottish soldier, who wandered far away and soldiered far away. There was none bolder, with good broad shoulder. He'd fought in many a fray and fought and won. He'd seen the glory, he'd told the story of battles glorious and deeds victorious. But now he's sighing, his heart is crying, to leave those green hills of Tyrol, because those green hills are not Highland Hills or the Island Hills. They're not my land's hills, and fair as these green fallen hills may be, they are not the hills of home.
I flew down from Dundee to record it on a Sunday, because that was, and I should have known it would go all right, because, I mean, that was through public demand. The first night I sang it in the White Heather Club, for example, we had about 800 letters the next day saying, you know, they liked the song. But I got this message left saying, "I hope you realise this is Sunday and it's double time, and I hope this is all going to be worth it." But I remember saying to my wife, shortly after that we went on holiday, and I said, "Well, I don't care if there's only one copy bought. I'm rather modestly, I suppose, but under the circumstances, it wasn't a modesty, because I was untried in the realms of recording. I said, I think it's a jolly good song, and I like it."
That jolly good song sold millions in this country and stayed in the American charts for a year. It also opened the door to an international career for Andy.
I did my first tour of the world. First place I visited was in Australia, 1961, and I've been going back there practically every 15 months ever since. So obviously they warned to me, I wouldn't have been asked back. In show business, it's a very honest thing, show business. You're never asked back to a place unless you've made money for the promoters. And to make money for the promoters, you've got to put bottoms, or Neil, it's something else. Neil used a good Burnsian word. You've got to put bottoms on seats, you see. So in that respect, I've been very lucky. I've been made welcome and found success with the audiences in Australia. I would say, without blushing with immodesty, that you know, I'm a household name in Australia and New Zealand, Canada.
Step it out, with the cheer and the shout, when we're marching through the air. Sing a song, give it strong, to the way may be long, and we'll all get there together. Here we come, to the beat of the drum, and we'll never mind the weather. So we smile all the while, every long weary mile, marching through the air.
At the height of his career, show business gave Andy the chance to meet and work on an equal basis with some of his boyhood heroes. Appearing with international names often brought out more of the fan than the star in him.
I remember the first time I went to Hollywood, I did see one or two very well-known and very famous people. I was awestruck, and I met people like Bob Hope. I met people like Maurice Chevalier, who really was another one who, as much as anybody else, inspired me to go into variety. I thought, well, what he's done for France, I could maybe, in my own small way, do for Scotland. George Burns, appearing in the Ed Sullivan Show, appearing in Royal Variety performances, between the ones I've done in Scotland and the ones I've done in England, it's something like 8 or 9 in all. and a Royal Variety Show, in actual fact, from the Palladium in London. It's rather a similar experience to one's wedding day. You've definitely been there, and you've definitely been an integral part of it. But it's all rather in the way of being somewhat hazy.
You can't remember.
You're terribly, terribly charged up, and you're terribly, terribly excited about it. No matter what anybody says, I defy anybody to say that they're not terribly keyed up.
Audiences knew they'd been there after Andy's shows because he had quality in everything he did. But of all his great talents, my favourite was when he dispensed with everything but his own skill in telling a story.
This little poem takes us on a wee journey through Scotland, and it's called simply The Rumour. Now, when it comes to spreading, there are many things to name. There's butter and there's fire, and then, of course, there's fame. But the thing that spreads the quickest, that's the fastest, you'll agree, is the spoken word of rumour. Just listen and you'll see. Now, the rumour I would speak of here was started by a man in Inverness who whispered it from in behind his hand. Did you hear what I heard, Willie? Man, that's awful. Yes, that's right. You'd never have believed it, man. It gave me such a fright. Now, poor Willie was quite upset when he heard that this had been, so he straightway phoned his brother George, who lives in Aberdeen. Oh, dearie me, says Dodie, man, that's awful for the shock. I'll tell your cousin Rob when next to me the broke. But instead he told his sister Jean, a bus conductor's lass. She told Steenhive and Lawrencekirk and Ilkatoon she'd pass. Well, that's what I heard on a while. I just that. Keep it to yourself. And they did keep it just like her and couldn't wait to tell. Until she reached all far Fortune, where once more nothing loath, she told it to a fisherman, who told it to her broth. By Chihuahua was their reaction. Or perhaps just dear I me. And they couldn't wait to tell the tale when they went into Dundee. Well, I'll no sell what. No, never on my life. But they crossed the river, and of course the story spread to Fife. It was told at every meeting place and spread from door to door. Though they listened cautiously at first, they soon said, tell us more. So more and more and more and more the rumour flew around, till they spelt it out in capitals in Edinburgh town. They shouted that and Leith. But oh, the tone grew more discreet as it passed up Leith walking along the length of Princes Street. To Stranraer it came, then northwards over Ayrshire and Kintyre, where it spread, they say, quite freely, like the heather was on fire. Oban, Mull and Tobermory, Malleig, Kyle, and that is why, once again by way of water, the rumour came to Skye. But they could not tell it further, and the reason is because by the time it reached the islands, they'd forgotten what it was.
The rumour, a challenge of dialects. If Andy Stewart had one fault, it was he would never say no. He always thought if anyone asked him to appear somewhere, then he should, if possible, do it. This led to tours, concerts, and one-night stands that became Scottish show business legends.
In 1964, I was in the middle of a summer season, 12-week summer season in Aberdeen, and I was asked to go. There was a Scottish Day being held in the World's Fair in New York, in the Singer Stadium. There, 15,000 people. So I left. I did two. I'd been 6 weeks into the season. Once nightly except a Saturday, and on that particular Saturday night I did two shows, drove to Prestwick, got on a plane, flew to New York, did an hour singing before 15,000 people, got back to the John F. Kennedy Airport, got in a plane, arrived at Prestwick at 7 o'clock in the morning, and was on stage in Aberdeen at 10 o'clock on the Monday morning to do a rehearsal, because we were changing the programme.
Fare well to the man on the mountain and the glen, who came from town and city and the village by the Ben. For the likes of the same we will never see again. Farewell, 50 pounds, farewell. March on, for all to see that you take your place in history on the glory
Andy Stewart once said that in his 40 years in show business, he'd done enough for 3 lifetimes. No one can take that pace forever. On a tour of New Zealand shortly before he retired, Andy realized, perhaps for the first time, that he wasn't immortal, and he should slow down just a little bit.
You know, you can be standing in the wings feeling terrible, and the minute your music sounds, there is definitely adrenaline somehow lifts you up. Mind you, this is one of the reasons why I'm going to stop this kind of life, travelling around the world with a handicap of not just the best health, because there's no doubt about it. The adrenaline may be going, and you may give a performance, and the audience may not realise that you're not all that well. Although I have given performances when the audiences have realised I haven't been too well, but you know, the whole thing adds up to a big strain. But normally, when I'm feeling fit and well, or even reasonably well, I don't feel any pain at all on stage. It's after I come off that I collapse.
Have I travelled, much have I seen, dark distant mountains and valleys so green, past painted deserts, the sun sets on fire as it carries me home to the Malachintire. Malachintire, oh mist rolling in from the sea, my desire is always to be here, oh Malachintire.
When he retired in 1985, Andy was asked to look back on the highlights of his distinguished career. Not surprisingly, Glasgow and Aberdeen both featured strongly in his memories.
When we opened Glasgow Empire in 1961, we were sold out twice nightly for 26 weeks. And I don't think I can ever forget the reception. It was not any greater than the reception I got, I remember, on the last night of the typhoid season here in Aberdeen. But these are two of the things that certainly stick out in my mind, was the fact that I suddenly realised that this was not a compliment being paid completely to me. It was being paid to the music of Scotland that had lain dormant as a viable commercial proposition for so long, and as we now know, is the dominating factor in Scottish entertainment.
For his work in the theatre, Andy was awarded the MBE. But another great honour lay ahead. To be recognised in your own community is perhaps the highest recognition of all. And in 1987, Andy was particularly proud to be given the freedom of his beloved Angus.
Angus is forever in my heart, and I know that every Angus man is proud to belong to his native county, or district as it's now called. I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I was in a hostelry of spirituous refreshment. And I was, it was very, very busy. It was here on our route. It was very, very busy. And it was filled with, lads and lasses out in the Sunday night for a pint and a half, and a dram, and a gin, and a vodka. And over the hubbub and the bubbub, you could hardly hear yourself speaking as there was orders shouted, near roads from every corner of the bar. Bring it to a pint, damn it, cheer, in the wagon. Oh my, and in the midst of all this was a diminutive little Frenchman. And this poor little Frenchman was finding it very hard to make himself heard. And he, very timidly at first, he said, Garçon, du bonnet, s'il vous plaît. 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 Garçon, un moment, s'il vous plaît. Speaking in French. And eventually this poor little soul lost his temper. And he stood up and he stamped his feet and he said, to hell with Britain! And very large farmer picked them up by the pinky. He says, what was that you said there? He said, I said to her was Britain. Oh, she says, that's all right. I thought you said Britain.
Andy Stewart was always an essential part of Hogmanay. His place in show business at this special Scottish time of the year will not be easily filled, but the memories are good. Good night, and when it comes, a happy new year.
I've just come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm no very big and I must be shy. And the lassie shout when I go by. God of Market through the left in the window high and in the window low. Through the streets and back into go. All the lassies say hello. God of Market through the left. To where the hill is mighty light. And it's not wrong, I know it's right. All the folks went to the flight. And the stormy where and through the left. In the window high. When the pipes are ringing and the kids are swinging and your heart is singing and you're really much along, you feel the glory that is brave and roaring in the tunes of glory of an old Scots song. If you're standing near them and you hear them, you will want to cheer them as you feel the music there. The music fills you on the drum, fills you on the rhythm, fills you up the old black hair. Brave all the honours we can't even cross, brave all the hearts that were lifted before us. Feel and play, feel and say, that is the story and the truth of glory. Because those green hills are not Highland hills, oh, the Ireland hills, they are not Highland hills, and fair as these green foreign hills may be, they are not the hills. Come on, let me hear you sing it now. Oh,